Chapter 1: The Widow's Bargain. Dust curled into the air like breath from the devil's lungs as Clara Whitmore stepped onto the wooden porch of the sheriff's office, her hat clutched in trembling hands. Her chestnut hair, pinned tightly beneath a widow's veil, hadn't seen the wind in weeks. Her late husband's ranch, Whitmore Acres, was weeks away from being repossessed by the bank, and with winter coming, her two young boys, Samuel and Henry, had nothing but hope and hard bread to hold them through. She needed a husband, a fake one. Not for love, not for companionship, but to fool the bank into thinking the ranch had a man's hands to run it, just long enough to get the next harvest in and pay off the debt. It was a desperate plan, but Clara Whitmore had long stopped waiting on miracles. "Sheriff," she said softly as she entered, the old bell clanging overhead. Sheriff Corbin looked up from a stack of papers, his mustache twitching in surprise. "Clara, what brings you into town?" "I'm looking for a man." The silence was thick enough to cut. "A husband," she clarified quickly. "Just not a real one. I need someone to pretend, sign the papers, stand beside me, just till spring." Corbin stared, brow furrowed. That's a mighty strange request. You sure about this?" She nodded. "The bank's given me 3 weeks. If I can show I got help, they'll extend. Otherwise, my boys and I'll be sleeping in the barn." The sheriff exhaled and glanced over his shoulder toward the jail cell. "There's a man," he said reluctantly. "He's trouble, but he's out tomorrow and he's got nowhere to go. Name's Boone Mercer. Used to ride with the Grady gang, outlaws, but he's been quiet since. Took a knife for a boy last month in a bar fight. Maybe he ain't as rotten as he seems." Claren's lips pressed together. A criminal? But her options were as dry as the land she tried to farm. "Let me meet him." Chapter 2: Boone Mercer. Boone Mercer was all muscle and shadow. Lean, broad-shouldered, with storm-gray eyes that seemed to look right through a person. His face carried the weight of too many mistakes, lines etched deep from wind and guilt. He didn't speak when Clara entered the jail, just raised an eyebrow as the sheriff explained her plan. When the sheriff left them alone, she cleared her throat and stepped closer to the cell. "I don't want trouble. I just need someone to stand beside me for a while. The ranch is failing. My boys, they deserve a chance." Boone sat up slowly, the chain on his boot clinking. "And you offering me what, exactly?" "A place to stay, warm meals, a name to use if anyone asks." "And what do I gotta do?" "Pretend, play husband, help out on the land when you can." He studied her for a long moment, then, unexpectedly, nodded. "All right." Clara blinked. "Just like that?" He shrugged. "I owe the sheriff a favor. He saved my skin once. Besides, a warm bed and a roof don't sound so bad." "But I want honesty," she added. "No drinking around my boys, no lies, no stealing. You walk the line or you walk away." Boone stood, walked to the bars, and held out his hand. Theo. Chapter 3. Pretend and Pain. The first few weeks were tense. Boone said little. He worked hard, fixing the barn roof, chopping wood, patching fences. But Clara noticed the way he jumped at loud sounds, or how he'd wake from dreams with a gasp. The boys, curious and cautious, watched him with wide eyes. Samuel, the elder, asked questions like a deputy in training. "Did you ever rob a train?" Boone just chuckled. "Nope, but I rode beside men who did." "And you stopped?" "Trying to." He never claimed redemption, never asked for forgiveness. But each night he'd eat in silence, then help Clara wash dishes or check on the animals. Slowly, the boys began to trust him, even laugh at his dry jokes. And Clara, She began to see the man beneath the scars. One night, she found him staring at the stars from the porch. "You ever been married?" she asked, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. "No." He rubbed a hand across his stubbled jaw. "Came close, but I left before she could regret me." "You think I'll regret this?" He looked at her then, really looked. "No, but I think you might pity me, and I don't need pity. I them give it." He smiled for the first time. Chapter 4. Trouble rides in. As the weeks passed, Clara's fields began to breathe again. With Boone's help, the irrigation ditches flowed smoother. The horses were healthier. Even the bank manager, Mr. Devlin, tipped his hat during his inspection and gave her a 2-month extension. But peace, like spring in the west, never lasted long. Trouble came in the form of Jeb Grady, Boone's old gang leader, riding into town with 2 of his boys. "I heard you were playing house, Boone," Jeb sneered at the saloon door. "Didn't peg you for the domestic type." Boone tensed. "I'm not with you anymore, Jeb." Jeb grinned, gold tooth flashing. "You think you can walk away from blood? From me?" Boone didn't answer, but Clara saw the fire in his eyes when he returned that night. "11 in the morning," he muttered, hands clenched. "You sure?" "No, but if they ain't, I'll make 'em." Clara touched his arm. "You don't have to fight this alone." He turned to her, voice rough. "Clara, I've done things. Bad things. I wanted to outrun them, but they keep finding me. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I stayed here, I could be someone new. But I won't bring danger to your doorstep." She stepped closer, holding his gaze. "You already brought hope. That's a harder thing to give than trouble." Chapter 5. Blood and Redemption. Jeb didn't leave. He came to the ranch. Clara was feeding the chickens when she saw the 3 riders approach. Boone stepped outside, rifle in hand, body tense. "I don't want blood," Boone warned. Jeb dismounted. "You owe me, Mercer. You walked away from the last haul. That cost us." "You cost me everything, Jeb," Boone growled. "That boy you stabbed in Carson, he was 10. I ain't following that kind of evil." Jeb drew his pistol. Clara screamed. Boone moved fast, pushing her behind him. A shot rang out, cracking across the field like thunder. Then another, and another. When the smoke cleared, Boone was on one knee, a gash across his shoulder. 2 of Jeb's men were on the ground. Jeb was gone, fled into the hills. Clara dropped beside Boone, pressing her hands to his wound. "You stubborn, stupid man," she whispered, tears falling. "You saved us." He grunted. "Told you. Wasn't all bad. You're good, Bone. You just needed somewhere to prove it." Chapter 6. Real Hearts. The bank gave her the loan after hearing of the standoff. Sheriff Corbin vouched for Boone's bravery, and the town, it began to see Clara not as a desperate widow, but a fighter, a mother, a survivor. Boone stayed. Long after the deadline passed. They never talked again about the fake marriage. It simply became their life. Boone taught Samuel how to ride. Henry learned to fish with him by the creek. And one golden evening, with the boys chasing fireflies under a blood-orange sky, Boone took Clara's hand on the porch. "I never thought I'd want anything like this," he said. "But I want you, Clara, for real." Her eyes shimmered. "I thought I was saving the ranch, but I think you saved me." He kissed her then, not as a pretend husband, but as a man who had walked through fire and found home on the other side. Epilogue. The real beginning. A year later, the land bloomed with wheat and wildflowers. Boone officially took the Whitmore name, not for ownership, but for legacy. Clara's boys called him Pa. The town welcomed him as one of their own, and the ranch thrived, built on sweat, loyalty, and love earned the hard way. They never forgot the pain, but it made the joy sweeter. In a town built on dust and danger, a widowed mother and a broken outlaw forged something unbreakable. A real family. And this time, they didn't have to pretend.